So today I had my first day of placement at my school that I'm placed with, and honestly, I walked into it not knowing what to expect. The emails from the person who I'm coordinating with and the teacher that I'm working with were kind of like really vague and kind of not very specific of what I would kind of expect. So I was kind of walking in a little blind, and it was not a horrible experience. It wasn't too bad. It was weird to be back in a elementary school. I haven't done step foot in one in a long time, so it was definitely a new kind of weird experience that I've already had before. Um, so um, the teacher that we were working with, like when I got there, was just finishing up a class, and then we were able to kind of talk about our expectations of what we both had in mind for this placement. So she kind of gave me more of a rundown of like the details and like what kind of classes I'd be working with, which I really appreciated. And then she asked me about my experience and like what I hope to gain from this and what she wants me to gain from this. So I explained that I just want to observe for a couple of classes, and then I'd really like the chance to really engage with the kids and work with them and work on different activities and have a chance to lead some activities and or some different songs and whatnot, and really get a chance to really immerse myself. But I definitely emphasize I wanted to just kind of work around observing for the first few kind of hours of placement, just so I can get a feel of herself as a teacher and as well as the class dynamics. And today, it was really weird just kind of standing around feeling like a fly on the wall. Um, for the first half of my placement, after we had that chat, it was mostly just kind of following her around and really just watching. And the teacher did introduce me to another teacher she was working with, but not until later on, like the last 40 minutes of my time with her, that she introduced me to the kids. So I felt really odd, just kind of, I had previously like interacted with two other groups of kids, and I was just kind of standing off the side, and I felt it was really weird that she never introduced me to the kids. So that was for me a little frustrating because a lot of them were just like, "Who are you?" Kind of like, "What are you doing?" Um, so, but then later on, she did introduce me to a class that I think she said that I would be working with more, so I understood where she was coming from. So I appreciated that. Yeah, and then what she said about her expectations for me were in line with what I was hoping to do. She did find it was weird that I was taking a music education placement, even though I was a performance major, but she thought it was really admirable that I was trying to get more experience with teaching, because she said a lot of people she went to school with thought they were going to become big stars, and she's like, "You're really smart for doing this." And I was like, well, teaching has always been a passion of mine. I've taught swimming lessons for 7 years, so I've always enjoyed teaching, but mainly just focused on performance right now. So that was just kind of weird little off comment that I was just, anyways. So just some of the things that I observed in my 2 hours I spent in the classroom today with this teacher. I really disliked the way that she tried to get kids' attention to be quiet. She kept doing shh, 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 let's be quiet now. It's like I'm talking kind of thing. And I really, through this class, like the reflections we were doing and some of the readings we've been reading, I really think that that's not productive in a way. I don't know, a strategy that I found that works really well to getting kids' attention, especially in a music classroom setting, is doing like an ooh and getting everyone to do like a hum and or like a kind of tritone down or something, or not tritone, but a triad. I found that that's really worked before to get kind of, it's like a fun way to get people's attention, and to get kids kind of focused again, as well as something that really stood out to me. The teacher did is that we were in the gym working. I think they were doing a drama collab with another class. They were doing some choreography with a song, and this teacher, then I guess there were some boys in the back who were talking and being a bit disruptive, but not to the point where I could personally hear and identify these boys. But then this teacher that I'm working with said, "Hey, boys," with a really mean teacher voice. Like her eyes were kind of like really like angry, saying like, "Hey, if you don't cut it out, I'm gonna have to separate you." And then all the other kids turned to these kids, and then there was, I think, like maybe like 35 other kids in the gym, or 40 kids, and it was like I couldn't imagine being those boys in the back, like just feeling so ostracized in that moment. And, you know, I think probably before, like, I wouldn't have thought differently about that before taking this course about how, like, a teacher would kind of address that. But now when we've looked and we've done those kind of examples when Kathy's been talking about um, through the class, like, especially I think the one example about, like, the phone usage, I just, to me now, I'm kind of thinking, like, that's not the best way to deal with that situation and get those boys' attention and try to address the misbehavior, you could say. So that really struck me. So I'd already had these couple instances of like different use of language, and I even told the teacher that in this class we've really been focusing on language, and she said too to me that a lot of people she know that have been going to a performance degree have had a hard time transitioning to teaching because they didn't get a music education background, which really also struck. I'm sorry, I'm like jumping way all over the place, but that really struck me because to me, regardless if you go into doing a music education degree or a performance degree, or let's say you do a history degree and then you go to teach, like if you don't have experience or are comfortable working with others, like other kids that age range, like regardless of your degree and your background, like nothing's gonna like fully prepare you better than experience. And I was just like, that kind of threw me off a bit because I was like, you're just limiting such a self. And just because you do a music education background in your undergrad, like it doesn't mean that you would have you like someone in performance would not be able to use that kind of language with kids and that kind of report. So I was like, that's kind of very limited thinking I found. But then anyways, so another instance that I found really interesting is that when we were specifically working with the class that I think I'm going to be working with, or the class I'm going to be working off the most, they're a class of grade 3s. There's one little boy, let's say his name's Alex for now. And Alex, I think, is just like a typical grade 3 boy. You know, he's got lots of energy, you know, like as a little kid, I think grade 3 or what, like 10, 9? I have no idea. But he was, you know, kind of a little bit rambunctious. And then the teacher said, hey, Alex, like, if you don't cut this out, I'm going to have to get you to leave the class. And I think at the time, like, he wasn't doing anything that was crazy, completely, like, disruptive, like, throwing anything. So for me, I was kind of a little thrown by that because, you know, just as, again, like before, the teacher was making the child feel really kind of ostracized. And I don't think he was doing anything completely wrong. So I just feel like there was a better way that she could have maybe had a conversation with him and not outed him in front of the rest of the class. As well as the same boy, they were doing a song activity where they were singing a song and they had to do this like weird partner dance thing, and then they went into like little circles, and then there's another little circle, and they had to like go around and like walk around the inner circle. And then the same boy, Alex, was not walking at a fast pace like the other people, but he was like skipping or something or gallivanting, I don't know, but he wasn't following the norm of the other children. And then this teacher like said, hey, Alex, and like almost like not grabbed him, but like kind of went to the side, like, and tapped him on his arm. It's like, hey, you have to fall back in your spot. Like, don't get ahead of your partner, kind of thing. And I'm like, well, what does it matter if he does this? Like he was eventually going to get back to his spot. So I don't know. It was kind of like, I think to me, it was really interesting to see this because I think previously before taking this class, I wouldn't have really kind of saw this as being weird, or not weird, but not the best way of addressing or using the language in the situation. So it was interesting to me that I'm picking up on this. And then to myself, I thought, okay, well, if I've had these couple instances of like, not issues, but like difference in opinions of how I would address the situation in language, just in the first like couple little bit of time spending with the teacher, I wonder how moving forward we're going to work together, and how if like something that I really don't agree with, the way that she chooses to handle like a disciplinary action of some sort, like let's say Alex like got kicked out of the class when he wasn't really doing anything super harmful, right? How am I supposed to address this, and how am I supposed to approach the teacher and talk about this. And especially with just kind of like the defensive language I've gotten back from her when I was explaining how we're focusing on this use of language. And she also told me that reflexive practice is for older kids. And I was like, no, I strongly disagree. I think you can definitely infer reflective practice to young children. I am a firm believer that little kids, you need to give them much more credit than you think their small minds can handle. Like, I think they're just such sponges, and I think we need to treat them with more respect sometimes and give them more of the benefit of the doubt than just assuming, oh, they're a little kid. So it was very interesting. There was a couple like things that I said, like not red flags, but kind of piqued my interest to think, okay, like I wonder why you've done this, and I wonder why you think this, and then you've chosen to do this. Obviously, she has more experience in the classroom, and then two, it's like, okay, how would I address these kind of situations differently? So I think it'll be really interesting to see how the rest of the semester goes. And this is a really long video, but I had lots to say. And I learned a lot, and there was like a bunch of different things that had happened, as well as at the end of my placement, my experience in elementary school was that I had one teacher for grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we had one gym teacher for the whole school. So we would have gym like maybe once or twice a week. And then we'd have a computer lab when we got older. But we really didn't have this kind of rotating schedule of teachers. And I told her this, and I was like, this is such a different experience for me than what I experienced in elementary school. And I told her, I was like, hey, I came from like Catholic all French school board. Like, it's really small, and it's very different because it's all French. It's not French immersion where you do French in grade 4 and blah blah blah. Like, no, I did full French from kindergarten to grade 8. Like, English was introduced in grade 4 like once a week. It was very limited. It was very French focused. Very different specific school board. And she got really defensive with me and said that that's not allowed. Like, you have to, like, teachers, like, the board, like, you have to have, like, a prep time. Like, that's not allowed. Your teacher can't be with you the whole day, blah, blah, blah. And, like, was very defensive and, like, very argumentative towards me about this. And I really got turned off from that because I was like, hey, like, I don't know, this is just my experience kind of thing. And then she was almost fighting with me to say that I was wrong and that this is no, like, your teacher would have to have a prep time. And I'm like, okay, well, like, we would, like, get, like, a gym period once in a while, but, like, it was most of the time we were with our teacher the whole day, except for, like, maybe during lunch and recess. So, like, I was just really not okay with how that ended because it made me feel a little uncomfortable with this kind of in, like, the tone that she was using because it was very, like, aggressive, and I was just like, well, this is just my experience. Like, I know you have years of experience teaching and being in different boards. And she said even herself, she's like, no, I've been in small boards. But I was like, okay, well, this is my experience, and apologize if I was wrong. But it was very, very upfront about her opinions. So, I don't know. We'll see how the rest of it goes, but those are just some of the key things that I found. And I think it's really going to be interesting to see how, in those situations where I don't agree with the way the teacher's using language, that how I can kind of interact with the kids and use language in a different way and try to see if, like, a little bit of reflexive practice in certain situations can be used. Like, the article that we read about the good job and reflexive practice really spoke to me. So I think it will be interesting to see how I can incorporate those in this kind of teaching, because it's really easy to fall back on, like, what we know and what we're used to. So I'm hoping that I can become more aware throughout this process. Yeah. So those are all the things that happened today on my first day. So I'm excited. It'll be a nice learning experience, and as well as, like, I'm generally, like, I love working with little kids. So if I could be a teacher, I would want to be a primary teacher. So, and work up to only grade 3, like, that would be my cap. So it's kind of nice to work with some kids that are older, but I would like to work with younger kids. But it will be nice to have this kind of, like, different opportunity. So yeah, I'm excited about it, and I look forward to seeing what's going to happen. Yeah. Thanks.